There we go.
Steve,
Yeah.
what's happening?
Hey man, how you been?
Did you dress up for me, or is this your normal? I feel like you're
No,
wearing the white
no,
button-down.
this is just it's an old Western I just grabbed this morning.
That is
It
actually a
was,
very cool shirt with the pearl
yeah,
snaps.
it was on one of the few clean ones in my closet. So,
That's what it
hey,
takes. You grab one of the clean ones. Are you a big Western shirt guy? Because I'm really into
I
Western
am not.
shirts. You're
I
not.
I I have several. I used to be more of a fan of them than I am now, but I kept some of my favorites, and this is one of them. I've had this probably 10 years.
That's a great shirt. Jimmy, our mutual friend Jimmy Bynum, has tried to sell me several Western shirts that I think his wife has collected at like estate sales, and they're
Yeah,
always so
I
expensive. Have you bought some
yeah,
from him?
I've not bought any shirts, but I've gotten a few kind of cool items from some of her estate sales. There was a, a screwdriver. It was about that long, and it it was embossed on the handle Indian motorcycles,
Wow.
and the screwdriver had to be 100 years old. So I got that, and I actually there's a good friend of mine that runs the Indian dealership here in Nashville.
Yeah.
So I gave him that screwdriver. So
How
as a
cool is that? Oh my God. The
so
100-year-old
here we go.
Indian screwdriver. Okay,
Yeah.
we have so much to talk about here. We've got a brand new agency on
Yes, we
in
do.
the works. First of all, I feel like there's a lot of pressure in naming an agency, right? I think you guys picked a really good name here, Reliant Talent. Who
Yeah.
comes
Well,
up with this name?
it was a combination of several of us because we made a list of our favorites, of course, and the first 10 we liked were not available because you
What
had
were
to check
what
the
were some of
name.
those? Do we
Uh,
remember?
I think Relentless was one. Um, Empire. Um,
That's a
I,
music distribution company. It's hard to pick a
yeah,
good name. It's probably the
it's
hardest
really
thing.
hard.
It's
Yeah,
really hard. Okay, so so you got like 10 of these. You're going through them.
yeah, and we check, the social and all of that, and none of that. They were either too expensive to buy, or there was another company similar, or that. And we came. Reliant was in the top 10, and we came to Reliant. We checked out everything, and everything was clear. There is a Reliant Bank. There's a Reliant Insurance. But there was not. I actually think there wasn't a Reliant Entertainment, but there was not Reliant Talent taken. So we grabbed that and grabbed the website and all of that. So
I
that's how
think
we came, and we really like it. It kind of speaks about us. We're very reliable to our clients. We reliable to our customer, and we have the reputation of being reliable and people that can be counted on to do the work. So,
I think this is a
so
great
it
name.
worked out.
And
Yeah.
it sounds kind of timeless. It sounds like it could fit in with like Premiere or Concert or like one of those earlier talent agencies. It sounds like it could kind of sit there. Could have been from the
Yeah.
50s.
Right. It could have been. Yeah. Absolutely.
It's a great
Absolutely.
name. Okay, so
Yeah.
I want to talk about this agency, but I want to
Yeah.
go back for a little bit. Your first concert that you ever booked was Ricky Skaggs, if I'm not mistaken. How do you
Yes.
book him? You're working at the International Celebrity Services Agency, and your first concert was Ricky Skaggs. How does that happen?
Well, I got the job. I had just graduated from MTSU, and had been working as a production manager assistant for Sound 70 Productions, which was the local concert promoter. here
That
in
was
Nashville.
Charlie Daniels and his manager were running the company.
Sullivan owned that. Yeah. And so we, back then there was no Live Nation. So promoters back then were independent and they were territorial. So, prior to Live Nation, so there were, Sound 70 handled Nashville, Louisville. They did shows in Chattanooga, Huntsville, Alabama, a little bit of Birmingham, and very few in Memphis because Memphis had their own promoter. Birmingham had their own promoter. Louisville had their own promoter. So it was all territorial. But anyway, so the 4 years of college, I was working at Sound 70 as a promoter, and decided to pursue the agency business. And it just came to me. I vividly recall the moment in which it hit me about being an agent. It was the end of the semester of the year I was graduating. I was sitting in a copyright law class, and we only had about a month left of school, and I knew I didn't want to stay in the promoter field. So I kept, well, what could I do? Wow, I could work for a record company. Yeah, that's not, no. Well, I could go in the publishing business. Well, I don't really know a lot about that. And then it just kind of hit me. Whoa, I could be an agent. That my skill set from an experience could be helpful with that. And I did have a sales background. So basically all you're doing is selling talent. There's a lot more going into that. Being an agent is part salesman, part attorney, part psychologist, part babysitter. But
is that why you were more into the agent side versus the promoter side? You wanted to be the one selling versus the one buying?
Yeah, well, I knew in the promoter field, there was, it's a big risk, and I didn't really have the resources as a, 21-year-old, 22-year-old to really go out and do it.
Right.
I, outside of Sound 70, I did, was a hired hand in producing some festivals and that kind of thing. But, other than that, and then in the last, I don't know, through the 2000, the first decade of 2000, and I guess my last year was 2015 or 2014. I was the entertainment director for all of the hog rallies, the Tennessee hog rallies, which has nothing to do with pigs. It's the Harley Owners Group of Middle Tennessee. So I procured the entertainment and produced their events for them, their festivals, which still, I could scratch my promoter side a little bit. But anyway, decided I could be an agent. So I started knocking on doors, and ICS, as we called it back then, it was a brand new agency owned by two ladies from the industry. And I went and interviewed with them, talked to them. I ended up going back 5 times. And the last time I went in to see them, I just sat them down and said, look, I got 5 reasons why you need to hire me right now. And they were like, okay, let's hear them. And I can't remember what they were, but I rattled them off, and they were like, well, let's show you to your office. And, Ricky was a client, a female artist named Charlie McLean. There was a father-daughter duet named The Kindles. Gosh, I can't really remember who all this, but Ricky was just moving from bluegrass into country. In fact,
Right.
he was just having his first #1 country record and all that. And I booked, first show I ever booked was Ricky up on a big festival in Ohio, outside of Columbus. And when I booked it, it came about a week or so out from the show. My boss has said, well, that's your first show, so you got to go cover the day. That's what we do as agents. You go cover shows. Okay. So I drove up and arranged backstage and all that. And when I pulled in the parking lot, there was a 10, 12-foot wooden fence. So I could hear the music, but I couldn't see anybody. So I went peeked around that wooden fence, and it was amazing. It was 80,000 people
Oh my
there.
God.
And it was in a area that's still there today called Legend Valley. And it was a great day. So my first show was Ricky Skaggs, and he was on a festival with Waylon and Willie, Leon Russell, and the Marshall Tucker Band, and Ricky Skaggs.
And did you get in, or were you behind the fence the whole time?
No. I was able to get in.
Oh, you got in, of course.
And all that. And, but that's my first show that I
It was,
booked. I'm like, whoa, this is cool. I can do this.
This is pretty cool. Wait, so you go in, so going back to like how you persistently, you were so persistent to get this gig. So you go in the first time to what, interview for the job? And then what happens the second, or what, they just don't call you back? And the second time you
I think I knew that they were talking to other people. And I think, it did take a little bit longer than I thought, but, or thought it should have. But I think when I walked in there that last time, they had already made up their mind they were going to hire me.
Oh, you think so?
Yeah, but they told me that. But
okay.
When I came in there with a little, swaggerness and told them, hey, I got 5 reasons, they wanted to hear them. Had I walked in and just sat down and started talking to them, they would have probably still offered me the job. But, when I, popped off at the mouth and said, I got 5 reasons you need to hire me right now, they were like, I know what they were thinking was, well, we're going to hire you anyway, but we want to hear the 5 reasons.
And did that speed up the process? Because sometimes it takes forever for a company, even if they say they're going to hire.
No, I mean, they showed me my office right at that moment.
And how many people were at the agency at that time?
Oh, very small. It was those 2, myself, a receptionist, and I think that was it.
So were you ever an assistant, or were you an agent just out of the gate?
Never was an assistant. Just the receptionist was my assistant. She, typed up all the contracts and sent out all the promo and answered the phone and did all of that.
Do you think because historically the music industry is obviously one where there's like, the players never studied the music industry in school, but you actually studied the recording industry at MTSU. Did that prep you for that gig, or I mean, was that a beneficial thing to have that education back in is the 80s, right?
Yeah. Now there wasn't really, through that curriculum of back then they called it recording industry management. Now they call it media and entertainment, whatever. But it really focused on recording, music, record labels, music publishing, copyright, and all of those processes. Very little info on concerts and being a promoter and being an agent. There was not a class you could take on being an agent or a manager. But they did, I think the third year I was there, they actually started having artist management classes. But there was never an agency class. There was never a promoter class. And I understand now that there actually are at Belmont and I believe MTSU.
I took one of them, and when I was at Berkeley. So okay, so you're at the ICS, right, for a while, and then you start working with an agency in Minneapolis, and you're there for like 6 months.
6 months, yeah.
And then you moved to WME, and I want to ask a negotiation question here, because there was something where you had like 2 years left in your contract. They said they were going to let you out early. And you said, fine, but I want 50%. And you held so firmly to this. Was that so important to you? Like, what's the negotiation strategy here? What's the story? Can you tell us the story? Because I think this is a good story.
Yeah, but we'll go back. After I came back from Minneapolis, which it was a really cool agency. We represented a lot of cool acts. John Prine, Asleep at the Wheel, Leon Redbone, Poco, Pure Pretty, Nitty Gritty Dirt Band, some of the acts that I went on to represent later. And one of the owners of the company back then was Rod Essick, who is
Of
now
course, that's CAA.
partner at CAA. So, he and I have been friends since '83, and still are friends. And we ride Harleys together. Now we're riding Indians together.
Can you tell me, for someone who doesn't know anything about motorcycles, what's the Indian motor? Where is that relative to a Harvey? A
Well,
Harley?
Indian motorcycles have been around about as long as Harley Davidson has, but they quit making them. I don't know exactly when, and they started making them again in, I don't know, in the last 10 years or 12 years. And a friend of mine who still owns the Harley dealership down in Columbia, he used to own one in Franklin. But anyway, through the years, he's always sold anyone who rides a motorcycle in the music business, and it was a Harley Davidson, this guy sold them that Harley. There was a bunch of us in the business that rode Harleys and rode together on that. Well, then he got into the Indian business. He's still in the Harley business. So then he started selling everyone in the music business that he's sold Harleys to. He started selling them Indians. And he kept bugging me to buy an Indian. And I told him, I said, man, I know what you're doing. You're just reselling Indians to everybody you sold Harleys. I'm a Harley guy. I'm never switching. He goes, yeah, I figured you'd be a holdout. So you're a Harley guy. I get it. Well, I was on my way to Panama City for a bike rally. I had a couple of clients playing, and he happened to be on my flight. We were sitting together, and him and his brother actually owned the Indian dealership in Panama City. And I told him, yeah, I'm gonna be down here 2 or 3 days and blah, 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 and covering the show up. And I thought, well, wait a minute. Do you have a bike I could ride while I'm down here? He goes, yeah, I got a bike you can ride. I'll put you on an Indian. Okay. So I rode it. That's all I had to do.
Because it just felt good. It looks good.
And I rode Harleys for 25 years. I loved them. I still miss it sometime, and I'm not slamming people that love Harley. I know they're very loyal people, but
get an Indian.
All I had to do was ride it. It is a superior bike in handling, quickness, power, comfort. My wife loves the Indian. She didn't like riding the Harley. It was too rough.
This is a words of wisdom here. If you're riding the Harley, give the Indian a try. Try it out.
All you got to do, and I have since talked to people that are now riding Indians that did the same thing. All they did was ride it.
All they did. I've got to get on an Indian.
All you got to do is ride it.
All you got to do is ride it. Okay, so you're
getting back to before I went to WME, or William Morris as it was called. I spent about 2 years with Headline International, with a company that was owned by Ronnie Millsap.
Right.
And my good friend Charles Doris and I ran that agency for him, and we were growing. We had Ronnie, we had Jerry Reed, we had Reba, we had Steve Warner, we had a few others. But then William Morris called, and I went over there in I think '84. Stayed, worked my way up. I actually, signed Charlie Daniels to William Morris Agency in 1987. So worked with, and then got to the end of about '97, and I was going through a pretty rough divorce, and just kind of spiraling down, and came to the end of the year, and they were like, well, we don't see that you're happy, blah, 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 blah. We're prepared to, if you want out of your contract, we'll let you out of the contract. So I thought for a second, and I said, well, if I say, no, I don't want out of my contract, they're going to say, well, we're going to make you out of your contract anyway. So I said, yeah, I want out of my contract. And they said, well, we're prepared to write you a check right now for 30%. I'm like, no, I want 50%. They said, okay, well then the litigation starts. Okay. So, I went out. This was in 97, I think. And it was right before Christmas. So I'll go through the holidays and go through about halfway in January. Hadn't heard from him yet, but I'd already, contacted my attorney and who had handled the exit of other agents that had left the company. And he had made contact with him and just told him, look, he wants 50%. We didn't hear anything. Well, about February of that year, I bought my first Harley Davidson. And they finally contacted me about mid-February. And I was dating a lady that was studying to be an acupuncturist. And the acupuncture school was in Fort Lauderdale.
Was she practicing on you?
She, not with needles, but they had to learn, there's the chakras and the meridians and all that. So she would practice finding those meridians and stuff on me.
I'm very into this. Done a lot of acupuncture.
And I still go to acupuncture to this day.
Really?
Yeah. Not to her, but yeah, that probably wouldn't go over very well. Anyway, so the school was actually north of Lauderdale, actually a little south of Lauderdale, in the area called Hollywood Beach, Florida, between Lauderdale and Miami. And Hollywood Beach is a throwback to the 50s. There's just this boardwalk down the beach. One side is the sand and the ocean. The other side are all these little 2-story, cool little hotels, little restaurants, ethnic. There's every kind of restaurant you can imagine on there. So, so I'd go down, I'd ride the bike down and, hang out down there. Well, her school was from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. So I'd get up and walk her down the boardwalk to her school, and I'd walk back up. And, the toughest decision of the day for me at that time was, where am I going to eat? And where am I going to hang out on the beach? And what book am I going to read today?
This is tough. But are you the kind of person who gets anxious not working? Because here you are on this like meteoric rise in the agency. I know you were talking about how it was a little bit of a tough time, but do you get antsy if you're not booking shows and doing work, or at that time were you okay?
First 6 or 8 months or weeks, through about the end of January, I was freaking out. I was antsy. I was this, I was that. And then it was kind of like, wait a minute, I'm, contractually, they still had to pay me.
Right.
I was able to, I was divorced at the time, but I was able to, ride by and pick up my kids and take them to school and pick them up and hang out. And then I'm hanging out on Hollywood Beach, and with a beautiful woman, and just hanging out, and life was good.
This is good.
Kind of like, you know what, I can do this. So the first call was about mid-February. I get a call. I'm on the beach, and I get a call on my cell phone from my attorney, and they said, well, I heard from them. I said, okay. Well, they came up to 35%. 50. Well, it's 35. I said, no. I said, you tell them I just bought a Harley Davidson. I'm hanging out on the beach in Florida. And if they want to just continue paying me for the next 2 years, that would be okay with me.
That's the contract. Why didn't you say that? I mean, I guess that's, you've got your word and your honor, but why not just go with that route?
Right. So I said, tell him it's 50. Okay. He comes back a couple of weeks later. I'm not on the beach on this call. So anyway, he says, okay, we got him up to 40. I didn't say anything. He goes, are you there? I'm like, yeah. Well, they're up to 40. I'm like, I heard you. Well, you're not responding. I said, because it's not 50.
We're 50. Not there yet.
You tell them I'm enjoying life. They can pay me for the next 2 years. I don't care. I have learned the art of relaxation. I'm reading books that I've always wanted to read and I've never had a chance. This this is the life I'm being accustomed to. So you tell them it's 50%. So moves on to probably 1st of April, and he comes back and says, okay, it's 50. So, all right. He said, but you can't go back to work till July 15th. Okay, that's fine. I said, I'll take the 50, but you go back and you bump it 15 grand, and that's for you. He goes, okay, great.
That's a gentleman's move, right?
Yeah. So when I left William Morris, I had, gosh, 12, 15 clients. I had Charlie, I had Travis Tritt, Aaron Tippin, Crystal Gale, Lee Green.
This is what I want to ask you, because you did not, everybody thought that you were going to basically poach those clients or take them over. And you ended up not taking a single one, right?
The
Why not?
act that I mean, I am a real live Jerry Maguire. I left the big company with one act, and it was Billy Ray Cyrus. When I left, his manager, who was a good friend of mine, called me and said, well, we're with you. It doesn't matter if you don't land anywhere for a while. Billy just wants to take some time off anyway. So we're with you. And wherever you end up, we're with you. Okay. So I left with the one act. And what happened was I cut the deal. We cut the deal with William Morris, 50%, all that. And then I cut the deal with APA, but I couldn't start to July 15. But Billy was wanting to get back to work for the summer. This was, I don't know, mid-May by this time.
Yeah, right.
So we worked it out where Billy actually went to APA before I did. For a couple. So they were booking him before I even got there. And then I arrived there July 15 of 1998 and was there for 22 years.
So what's the secret? Here's a story really quickly. When I moved to Nashville, I had a hair cutter who told me that he was about to leave. And I saw the same hair cutter for about a year. And he told me he was about to leave and start up his own shop. And everybody was going to follow him because they're there for the hair cutter, not for the barber shop. So he leaves and he starts up his own shop. And I stayed at the same hair cutter. It was too much of a hassle to go over to his shop. What's the secret to securing clients to take them with you? Because isn't it easier for them to just stay where they are, even if the agent switches? What's the secret to bringing a client like Billy Ray over with you?
That was his choice.
That was his choice.
Yeah. I think, I think maybe he was getting tired of William. I don't know. All I know is I got the call and said, we're coming with you.
Okay. We're coming with you. And you were at APA for 20 years.
22.
22 years.
William Morris, 15-ish, and APA 22. And one of the assistants at William Morris actually left when I did. And I called him up and I just said, hey, I don't know what I'm going to do, but wherever I land, whenever I land, I'll call you if you're available. You got a job. And I called him and he was available. As Frank Wing, he's with me today. So Frank and I have been together almost 23 years, be 23 years in July.
Wow.
And so he came with me, but when we walked in to APA, it was me and Frank and I think 3 other agents. Frank was an assistant. There were 2 other, so there was a total of 7 people. And we had maybe, including Billy Ray, I think we had 8 clients. So we knew we had our work cut out for us, right?
And by the time you left, there were over 70
clients
on the roster, right?
Staff of 35 pre-COVID.
So how did the conversation start for this new agency?
Well, the CEO, well, he wasn't CEO at the time. He was running the music department, Jim
Jim
Gosnell.
Gosner.
Gosnell, yeah. He and
Gosnell,
I
yeah.
had for some reason became friends through the years, hanging out in you know music conferences and conventions and that kind of thing. Um, and when they actually opened the APA opened a national office in 1995. And when they were going to open the office, he actually called me and wanted me to open the office with him. And I was still under contracting, couldn't make the move, so they went ahead and opened the office. So when I left, he was my first call, and I just said, "Hey, I can't do anything right now, but let's stay in touch." And once I got my deal done with William Morris, I called him and we cut a deal, knowing I couldn't work till July 15th, but cut the deal, and stayed there 22 years and built the office for him. Unfortunately, through COVID, a lot of companies had to change, and we had to suspend most of the staff, and that's kind of what was what created Reliant. Really, is you know my desire to keep the team together.
So do you go to approach like Matt and Heath with this idea of what if we start our own agency?
Actually,
How those
they approached me.
they approach you and what do they say? How about this?
They just said, "Hey, we're kicking around this idea. Um, not really know how you're gonna react to this, but what do you think? Let's go. What do you think of this idea? What do you think?" And I said, "Well, let me get back to you." And I went back to him and I said, "Let's do it. Let's let's take a shot. Let's do it." And we started putting it together. Matt did and Heath both, but really Matt did a lot of the legwork that needed to be done. And you know, turn of the year, we were able to bring six of the team, the agents, and three of the assistants, and with the force majeure thing and the COVID stuff, you didn't have a non-compete or anything. You just could go do whatever you want to do. And really glad we did it. Um, you know, APA was really good to me for many, many years, as Matt and Heath and Frank and Jeff and everybody else. But it was kind of, well, a lot of people through COVID have seen other opportunities pop up. And that's what happened with us. It was just another opportunity to go do something different, something that I had always envisioned that someday I would do. And it was almost like, well, if you want someday you want to do this, you better be doing it. I'm 63 years old, so you know if I'm going to do it, I need to do it. But it's worked out great. We brought in a few more agents, and signed a lot of clients since we officially launched it January the 4th. And we're so happy. And so, just nothing against corporate America and the corporate world, but it's just so easy to maneuver. Now I don't have to ask a board. I don't have to, go to a CEO and ask, can we do this? It's kind of like we kick it around and sounds good to me. Well, what do you think? Yeah, man, I think it's good. Yeah, well, if we do, well, let's just do it. Okay. And if it doesn't work, we've tried it, but being an independent opens you up to trying things that you wouldn't be able to do otherwise.
Do you
Yeah.
think also do you think also when you're going into the agency, like you started out with a smaller agency and you immediately came in as an agent, are there advantages to starting your career at a smaller, more boutique agency than going to a powerhouse and being in the mailroom for 2
Well,
years?
yeah, what it did for me, was I was trained booking talent that was hard to book. With small independent agencies with very few acts, and you learn how to do it, or you don't survive. And that was the some of the best training I had was having to do that. And through the years of building APA, we managed to build that company without the advantage of big arena acts or big stadium acts or anything like that. So, the guys that are still with us today had that same training, that they were trained booking acts that are hard to book. Anybody can, this is no slam against in anyone, but in everyone would understand this statement. Anyone can book Jason Aldean. I mean,
Right.
that may be a little arrogant to say, but I mean, there is a lot of work to that, but you don't really have to do a lot of selling to book that,
It's
right?
easy to sell MacBooks. They sell themselves.
That's what I mean when I say anyone can do it. Anyone can't really do it, but that's the difference. So, in the cool thing too is there's a lot of boutique agencies that have popped up in the last year due to COVID um, that are comprised of, there might be an agent or two from WME and a couple of them from Paradigm and one from UTA and this one from that one in CAA. And the difference between those companies and ours is, in those companies, you've got agents who have come together who have been competitors for the past 20 years.
Yeah.
And they're trying to figure out, how to work together and how to like each other, and figure it out and start from scratch. The cool thing about us is we've already been working together for a long, long time.
You guys are
Frank,
already a team.
22 years. Jeff Howard, 15, 16 years. Chris Looney, 12, 13 years. Heath, 15 years. Matt McGuire, who is the least, he's been 10 years. So we've all already been doing this for so long with each other. And that's why we were able to come out of the gate hitting the ground running. We just decided to do it, did the legwork that we had to do to make it happen. And when we turned the corner January 4th, we were open for business and we were let out of the gate rocking.
So what have you, so has it been like a really great time to start an agency? Because when you started, you had all this time before you had to even book a show to kind of get your ducks in order, because you couldn't even book a show, versus in another time, you're probably booking as you're building and it's very stressful. Now you're like, we cannot book. We have to work on business development. Is that kind of how it played out?
Well, we could book. It's just, I guess some of the bigger agencies, were the party line out there was, there's no dates out here till the fall.
Right.
Well, we kind of proved that wasn't the case. Between March and April of this year, across our roster of, I think we have 40 acts or so, we had 80 shows to play March and April. So we're telling our clients, no, we can get you work now. It's not going to be normal. It's not going to be optimum, but there's a few dates out there now.
And what is that? The drive-in show? Is that what is that? What were those dates?
Some of the outdoor things that were social distanced. There was a few indoor things, some private shows that were, small crowds, social distance in big facilities. So that was, they were all, socially distanced and, local health approval and that kind of thing. So, but the problem wasn't finding a promoter with money in their hand, ready to promote dates. Aside from the Live Nations, the AEGs, they were not making offers.
Right.
But there's a lot of independent promoters that were, and the problem wasn't finding a promoter. The problem was finding a venue that was approved to have a show.
That
And
was the issue.
yeah, and we figured it out approximately. For every 100 calls we would make trying to find an open venue that's approved for shows, for every 100 calls we would make, we would find maybe 3. But what else are we going to do? We're on the phone. We're calling venues. We're trying to figure this out. We're trying to get our clients work. If there's any work at all out there, we're going to find it. And we were very successful in doing that. Some of the acts, work quite a bit, but we just happened to find those open venues.
What's the secret? Like, going to what you said about how it's harder to book, it's easier relatively to book Jason Aldean, let's say. When you pulled Travis Tritt into APA, didn't you double his business by like 50% or 100%? And then you grew Charlie Daniels' business considerably also.
Charlie, we increased his business about 30%. We doubled Travis's business the first year.
How do you do that?
It's just getting down in there and grinding it out. It's actually being a booking agent. We doubled the business for Kansas the first year we had them. We doubled the business for Sawyer Brown. We doubled the business for the Marshall Tucker Band. We can go on down the line. We've just been able to do that. And for every act we sign, if we don't double their business, we increase it significantly. Rare did we lose an act? We did. We would, at the bottom part of our business, the developing acts, we would develop them up to a certain level, and here comes the big guys. So our issue is not booking the established act. We've got that down. We can increase their business. We've proved it time and time again. It's taking a developing act, which we find before anyone else does, and raising them up to a certain level and being able to hang on to it. If we can hang on to one, we'll hang on to the next 10. And that's been our mission, is to hang on to the first one. And we've been trying to hang on to the first one for many, many years. We will. What are our choices? We can either keep trying or stop. Well, we're not going to stop. So the only choice we have is to keep going.
What percentage of baby acts, quote unquote, are you signing right now to Reliant?
We've got, last count, I think we've got about 50 clients, and we've got maybe 8 or 10 young developing acts. Some of them, I think, are some of the best talent I've ever seen.
Anyone we can mention right now to check out, or are we keeping it under wraps?
Yeah, you go to the website and look at them and see. You can. The website is very user friendly. You can go to the roster. You can click on a picture of an artist, and then there will be video clips, music clips, bio, anything you need to go in there. But we're very, very proud of our young act list, from the Scooter Brown Band to
love the Scooter Brown Band, actually.
Band Texas Hill,
love Texas Hill too.
Travis's daughter, Tyler Reese, she's going to be a big star. Down to we just started working with this entertainer from Australia named Wesley Dean. You can check him out. Amazing. They're all amazing. There's not a clunker in the bunch.
I believe it. Reliant talent. Everybody's got to go to the website and go through the Reliant talent roster. What is it like when at APA? APA was a full service agency, and I think now Reliant is, I think, just focusing or specializing specifically on music. Are there plans eventually to build out those other wings,
Yeah.
or do you need those other wings if you're just focusing on music?
Well, the 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 vision is to have those other services, but we are providing those services as we have partnered with some other companies to represent some of our clients in those areas. Other companies that are not in the music business uh, or the music touring business. They are specifically in the TV and film and reality business, branding, sponsorship, that kind of thing.
Right, right,
So we
right.
partnered with a couple of them to kind of offer that service, but not really be in that business quite yet. But we eventually want to bring that in. Um, but what we immediately did was our core business is country rock, southern rock, classic rock. And I immediately started looking around, going, okay, so what opportunities are there out there that we're missing? Just forget TV, film, and all that right now. What other opportunities are there in other genres of music that we're not in? And the first play we made was in the jazz business. And we now represent about 15 jazz acts that are going to, not so much this year, but in 2022, those jazz artists are going to bring in a significant amount of money. We're
How
also
so?
looking
How
at
do you go? Oh, sorry.
looking at other genres of music. Where with the jazz business, we hired a jazz agent, and he came in with you know, I think it's 14 or 15 acts. So what I did back in, I did a whirlwind. I call it, I guess, just hitting the trail for the month of April. Um, my wife and I covered 21 artists shows through the month of April.
Holy cow!
Yeah, yeah, it's good.
Going out and seeing mostly jazz
eight
stuff.
eight or nine of those were at one festival. It was a jazz festival, and I had never met these clients before, and that was a way of me coming in, getting to see their show, getting to meet them, getting to talk to them, and welcome them to the agency, and giving me an opportunity to thank them for believing in us into making the move for us. And their loyalty with their agent, of course, was there, but it was just an opportunity for me to get out and meet them. And they artists love that. They love the fact that you take the time to either drive down or fly in and go through security and do all of that you got to go through to show up and watch their show. And I always try to see them a little bit before the show and always after. um, Agents have been known to do what they call the agent shuffle, which is say hello before the show, stay for 2 songs, and then go have dinner. We don't do that. We stay both. If we can say hello before, that's great. If not, we certainly say hello later and always comment. And that way they know that you actually stayed there and watched the show. If you can mention, um, if it's, hey, that guitar solo in that song, blah, 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 but man, that was awesome. They know you've actually watched the show, you know? But it was great. It was, like I said, 21 artists in about a 3-week period. And it was, I was a little tired, but it was worth it. And I'm going to do it again this summer.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Reliant is going into the jazz world and to other genres that there is opportunity. And have
Mhm.
you made it out to the ranch at all, to Colorado? I know you're a big rancher.
We did that incident you're talking about. There was a fundraiser in Dallas that my wife was involved with for many, many years called Roundup for Autism. And part of the package that we bid on was 3 days at a cattle ranch where you do a cattle drive and branding.
Oh my God.
Uh, Through the years, I've always had horses and been a big fan. And I I think that in my past life, I was a cowboy or a horseman, or I rode in the cavalry or something. I just feel like that's where I came from, because I feel I'm so comfortable on a horse. And we went to this ranch and was able to, do actually did 2 days of cattle drives and 2 days of calf branding and separating them out. And, you know, it was great. And, got to see how the real cowboys do it. I mean, it's an old school working ranch. They do it the old way, where, you separate the mamas from the calves, and, you go out and get them, and you got to be careful. It was a ranch of, I think, 100,000 acres,
Oh my God.
divided like, 200,000 acres in each one. And they were like, okay, well, the cattle is up over that ridge, and you're going to go this way, and you're going to go this way. And there was probably 20 of us on horseback, and we were about 10 minutes into the drive, and the young cowboy who runs the ranch, he's only 22 years old and runs the whole ranch. He said, y'all stop for a second. Stop where you at. Okay. He said, don't move. Okay. He gets off his horse. He pulls his rope off of the saddle and makes a knot in the end of the rope. And he starts swinging around his head and starts hitting. He keeps hitting this bush, hitting it, just hitting it. Did it like 20 or 30 times. And finally stopped, rolled his rope up, and walked over, pulled his knife out of his boot, went down, and it was a rattlesnake about that long.
Oh my God.
And he said, that's how we kill rattlesnakes out here. I'd never seen a rattlesnake be killed by a knot at the end of a rope.
That's how they do it.
That's how they do it. It was amazing.
That's how they do it. Steve, we have covered so much here. We've learned a lot too. We've learned that you should give the Indian motorcycles a try.
Yep. All you got to do.
You have to stay till the end of the show.
Yep.
And if you can get there at the beginning, that's ideal too.
Yep.
What have we left out? We left anything out? And Reliant Talent. This is the new hottest agency coming out of Nashville. Already with offices in New York and LA, though, right?
Yeah, we have a gentleman in New York and a gentleman in LA. We sure do. And just hired our tour marketing person is also based in LA. Just brought her on a couple weeks ago.
The national agency.
We're growing. I don't want to grow too big, and I don't want to grow too fast. I started out with like 7 or 8 people at APA, and we ended up with 35. I don't want 35. I want maybe 15, 18. Comfort level, you can keep your eye on everything. But yeah, I want to, build it out. I want to be in these other businesses. I want to spread out to other genres that we're not in, and just do it that way. We're looking at the Christian business. We're looking at the bluegrass business. We're taking a look at the blues and R&B business. Looking at comedy. We do handle Rodney Carrington, so it would only make sense to build a comedy division around him. We also represent Nelly, so maybe we can add some clients that are also in that kind of genre. So it's all encompassing, all music genre agency. It's not just country and country rock anymore. It's everything.
Any talk about looking at some of the influencers that have blown up during the pandemic and are starting to get out and do little like in-person appearances and things like that? Is any of that of interest?
One of the things I'm looking at in regards to that is like yourself, okay? Podcasters. They're the new speakers.
Podcasters, the new speakers.
That's another area I'm gonna, I want to bring in is the speaking world, the speaking engagements. There's a lot of money to be made in speakers, and it pays well, and the podcasters and influencers are the next speakers. Absolutely.
Who do you
So,
like?
we may want to come and bring you in as a speaker one day. So,
I would be honored to join the Reliant Talent Agency.
but that is a business. It's a real business, and it's the future of the speaker world is our podcasters, because some of them that I'm kind of watching that have started speaking engagements, they have podcasts that are having, they have 10, 12, 15 million listeners, and now they're starting to get a lot of money to go speak.
And these guys have bigger followings than like the Joe Rogans, for example, the obvious example, but you have a bigger audience there than you do on any late night show or even SNL or anywhere else. That's where you get the biggest audience. That's the place. That's where everyone is. Steve, I've taken you to the hour. Have we left anything else out?
Yeah. All right. Well, you had an hour.
Have we left anything out? Have we said it all?
I could keep going because I've been doing this for so long. But we'll stop.
We'll call it there. We'll have to bring you back in a next year, whatever it is. We'll have to give an update.
Yeah, we'll call it a day because I've been doing this a long time. I've got a lot of stories and a lot of amazing things that I've been able to see, been able to watch. And this is all I've ever done.
This is it. And we've put on with the Zen mind, we've put the white belt back on to start. We're in the beginner's mindset right now, going after this brand new agency.
Right.
So exciting. Reliant Talent.
We're very excited and couldn't be happier.
Fantastic. Steve, thanks for taking the time.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Hope to see you again soon.
Maybe you should have, maybe at some point you have some of the younger guys.
I would love to have Heath on.
Yeah, they've got a lot to say.
Early on, I tried to get Jeff Howard on, and we were never able to coordinate it. But I would love to have Heath on, or Matt, or anyone over there. It'd be fantastic.
Well, reach out. Reach out to them, or I'll reach out to you.
I know
you should have them on because it's a younger perspective, and all of that. So
I'm gonna bring Heath on.
Thank you.
Great talking to you. Talk to you soon.
Thank you.
All right, Thank you.